but the ideology of gender-affirming care is actually very homophobic.
The ideology of gender-affirming care is very homophobic.
Are not homophobic or transphobic for just wanting to protect their children from this outrageously inappropriate and dangerous content.
Like I said before, though, you're either going to manage the content that they are going to engage in a safe way, or you're going, like, it's like saying abstinence as sex education. It's just not, what's the word I'm searching for here? It's just not enough. It's just not enough. You can't just not teach these kids these things and not expect them to go out and try and ascertain this knowledge elsewhere. So you either have control over what they're learning, or their friends teach it to each other. And that's messy. That's even more unsafe, in my opinion. This is kind of the same thing. Are you going to teach your kids about the unsafe things out there so they're actually informed when they approach those things in the world? Or are you just going to ignore that all of that exists, and then you just have a bunch of pregnant Christian teens because they had no idea what would happen?
All our progress is being erased because our community
That is so hyperbolic. Ain't no way that all of your progress is being thrown to the wayside because trans people exist. What a loony.
hijacked by trans terrorists.
No. Because it's really hard to say these things if you have an example of a trans person in your life, especially if you know a trans kid in your life. I've known trans kids before. Hell, I was one, right? So like, if you don't have somebody in your life who you love who falls into one of these categories, it's really easy to make this sweeping generalization that transness is being pushed upon you as if it's some outside in force, when it is in fact not. It's an inside out force. And parents who do not allow these inside out forces to come out really are doing their kids a disservice. At some point, if you're having all of these problems across all of these different like media platforms and all these people that are upset with you, like, who's the common denominator of all of these issues? It's you, Jamie. Everybody's talking about Jamie, but not in the good way. Not in the good way. Hello babies and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, hi, my name is David, and if you have been here before, don't worry, my name is still in fact David. And here on my channel in this series called Dismantling Hate, we react to a lot of different hateful internet nonsense. So that can be homophobia, it can be racism, it can be just discrimination in any form, and there is no shortage of hate on the internet. If you like this, if you're interested in it, you can find the playlist. It's linked below of all my other episodes of this series in particular. And I have fallen down the rabbit hole of gays against groomers, and this is another video. This one's a short one, so we'll see how long it takes us. The Ari Hoffman show. So what I believe, what I'm kind of gleaning here is that this is a radio show, and the last episode that we did was also a radio show by somebody else, and I think they're interviewing the founder of Gays Against Groomers. I forget what her name is, but we're probably going to find it out here right away. So without further ado, besties, let's get into the react and see what is going on here with this nonsense. Oh yeah, one last thing before we get started here is that I'm not blurring the names and faces of these individuals. That does not mean I want you to go and incite hate against these people, even though they may deserve it, because we are not here to perpetuate the culture of hate. We are here to laugh, and we are here to be a little bit educated. So let's see what's going on here. Now the title is "We Were Suspended from Twitter. Our Founder Responds." I can't imagine why Gays Against Groomers would be suspended by Twitter, but I guess let's see why.
So tell me exactly. Yeah, tell me exactly what happened. What'd you guys post that set off the Twitter overlords?
So this was a post from like weeks ago, but it got the attention of some rabid leftists. And they, you know, it circled around their groups, and I'm sure that they instruct their followers to mass report it. So today, this just happened like an hour ago, but
happened an hour ago, and we're already live on the Ari Hoffman show. Wow.
First, I got an email that said that the account had been locked. So basically, the tweet was just saying how damaged people, and that, you know, these radicals within the alphabet cult really is what it is.
The alphabet cult, which is in reference to LGBTQIAS plus individuals, which they love to say. Mafia is also something that they love to say.
Need to stay away from children. That was essentially the gist of the tweet.
Mm-hmm.
It was a
queer people need to stay away from children was the tweet, and they're like scrounging to find a reason as to why that wasn't allowed. What?
tweet to one of our members, Mike Harlow. He had tweeted about, I forget his name, Jeffrey Marsh it is. He's like that super popular person on TikTok that's like gone viral on TikTok, who basically all of his videos are indoctrinating children. They're directly geared towards children.
Oh.
He mentions like, parents, leave the room. I want to talk to the kids. Stuff like that, and like all of his videos.
Okay, I think I know the individual that they're talking about, and I don't think that's accurate, but I'm not 100% on that. I think they're going to show footage here.
And so he's like a number, like very top groomer on social media. But the thing is that his face was blurred out in the tweet. I never called out his name, neither did Mike. His face was blurred out. So
Well, you're calling out his name right now, but okay.
I wasn't intentionally calling out him. And even if I was, like, are we not allowed to speak? Like, are gay people not allowed to criticize other gay people? You know, it's just...
You're allowed to criticize other people, but calling other people groomers is, what is that, defamation?
It's just absurd. Like, Twitter, big tech is now silencing the voices of gay people who are trying to come out and say, no, we actually...
Just because you're gay, sorry, I'm pausing this a lot. Just because you're gay doesn't mean you're given the green light to say anything you want against other gay people. It's like... Yeah, like people of color can be racist, queer people can be homophobic. Like it's not that complicated.
Knows what, like, you know, Woke Inc. is trying to push here.
Woke Inc. That's the name of my new cover band. Somebody write it down. Woke Inc. Oh my God, you can't fight Big Woke. Bigwoke.org. Bigwoke.org.ca. Hilarious.
On the kids. So Twitter, they've basically taken the position that they're protecting, you know, predators over just being gay. Like we're being persecuted while they're being protected.
So here's something I got to ask, because it seems to be the new thing. Everybody can't ignore the impact a Twitter account has, can't ignore the impact a Facebook account has. And it seems more and more often there's people who go, well, I'm not deleting the tweet, or I am deleting the tweet, and usually everybody caves and ends up deleting the tweet because they know they have other messages to get out. Your messaging is so important. Are you guys going to delete the tweet if they reject all your appeals and such so you can still be on the platform? Or are you saying, hey, this is an opportunity to switch to something else?
Yeah, no, it didn't even give me an option to appeal, but I deleted it right away because it's like, I understand, like Jordan Peterson, you know, he's big enough where he can like make a statement with that, you know, but we are just getting started. We're not even 2 months old, and we've grown to over 50,000 followers on Twitter in a really short amount of time. And so no, like having access to all those people and having our message spread through Twitter is more important to us than, you know, that one tweet, which I didn't even remember. Like,
Sure.
you know, it was a while ago now.
Sure.
You don't even remember calling somebody a groomer. That should be memorable to you to a point where you like did research and have a basic understanding that information was true before you threw that out to your 50,000 followers.
I deleted it right away, but I mean, this adds as this counts as like a strike on our account, which we've gotten one before, like 2 days after I created the account. I don't remember what that was for anymore, but I don't know
Of
how
course
many
you
we're allowed
don't.
to get before they permanently ban us, but, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what.
We're not even 2 months older. We've got two.
I'll let you know when I find out, because I'll tell you something else people tell me all the time. If you're taking flack, it means you're over the target, Jamie. One of the other platforms in place...
If you're taking the flack, you're over the target. I think that oh man, this comes up a lot in like anti-MLM content or like anti-MLM content, so like MLM people or pyramid scheme people. I don't know, I love that kind of content, those reacts. Actually, a big part of my like channel, and not a big part of my channel, a huge part of me learning how to do like reaction videos like this has come from me watching anti-MLM content. I love it. But I think what he's trying to say here is like that if you have haters, you're doing things right, which like I can understand the message that they're trying to communicate there, but at some point, if you're having all of these problems across all of these different like media platforms and all these people that are upset with you, like who's the common denominator of all of these issues? It's you, Jamie. Everybody's talking about Jamie, but not in the good way. Not in the good way.
They can find you until your Twitter account is restored.
Yeah, for sure. If you go to just gaysagainstgroomers.com, we have all of our social...
That will never cease to just ping my ears wrong. That says the Hofffather? The Hofffather, okay.
There. Instagram is our biggest one, which is just Gays Against Groomers. But yeah, everything's on our site. Right when you go to the site, it's like the first thing you'll see, all of our social links.
Jamie and Michelle, thank you so much for joining us, keeping us updated on this. You got my phone number, you got my email, you know how to get a hold of me. So please keep me updated on this, okay?
All right.
All right, Jamie.
Yeah,
thanks
for having me to talk
Please
about
keep me updated on your blocked Twitter account. Like, we're really digging to make a story here. Good goodness. was going to say good God, and I was like, no, clean it up. So then I said
Forward
good
to having you
goodness.
back on Twitter as well. Thanks so much for joining us today. This is absolutely crazy. We got no freedom of speech left at all. You can't say anything online without the Twitter overlords or the Facebook overlords or whoever it is censoring it. And in this case,
Oh, I don't know if it's necessarily censorship, but if you say things that are discriminatory or inflammatory against somebody that you don't have proof of, yeah, that should be taken down. You do have free speech. You can put it out there, but it is punishable after it's out there. It's kind of how it works.
you guys are doing is cautioning people against people who are preying on your children. And you should be asking, why is Twitter defending the people who are preying on your children?
Why did he really, the people that are just, and I don't want to, I'm not here to insult people. It's so funny that after every video that plays, it always goes to some drag race content.
Hey, all you hottie jalapeno poppers, welcome to another...
Jesus Christ, you know, sometimes homophobia is the answer. No, that was a joke. And next we're going to look at exposed, Tinder and Grindr taught in schools. Where is this going? It's like a, not a courthouse, like a city hall? Oh, I'm so interested. What's going to happen here?
Good evening. My name is Samantha Viscount, and I'm the Gays Against Groomers chapter lead for Vista, California.
No.
I'm speaking here today because I'm gravely concerned about the abundance of inappropriate sexual content being taught to and made available for children, both in your school curriculum and school libraries. 2 books.
Being taught to specifically, so it's in the program of studies. She's saying it's in the curriculum. It exists in those government documents. They're teaching this.
One titled, This Book is Gay, and another titled, Genderqueer, are available to students in many of the school libraries. Within these books, kink is mentioned multiple times. I am a bisexual and polyamorous woman who has been active in the kink community for over 4 years now.
It's just like, it's funny to say that you're involved in the kink community. It's just I don't know, that just really tickles my funny. Like, that's a really funny thing to say, that you're a part of the kink community. And that's not weird. That's not weird. Kinks are a thing. People have it. It's not weird. It's not inappropriate if it's with adults. But kink is mentioned in what way? Like, show us how. Read us the sentence.
And I can tell you that in order to navigate the kink world safely, you must have a firm understanding of extremely elaborate concepts, such as informed consent, boundaries, scene dynamics, safe words, roles and responsibilities, negotiation, aftercare, and many more. I'm sure
Okay, I agree with all of those last, 10 things that she just said. Yeah, all true.
Most of you don't even know what some of those concepts are.
Yeah.
Most adults struggle to understand these topics in depth,
Okay.
let alone children. Because of its ambiguity, and simply because children cannot consent.
That's true.
Under no circumstance should children ever be exposed to kink. These books also mention adult hookup.
But what does kink mean? Like, I from a base level, from what I have an understanding of kink is, I agree that it shouldn't be for children, or that children shouldn't be learning it. But I wonder what kink actually means, like what the definition is. I don't know.
Apps such as Tinder and Grindr. Page 158 in This Book is Gay reads, another major plus to sex apps is they allow a degree of anonymity, so guys and girls who aren't out can meet people this way without having to self-identify by entering a gay bar. The sign-up age for these apps is a minimum of 18. The minimum...
Yeah, okay. Well, the sentence that she just said, like, this book is gay, that does... Well, it depends. It depends on the context, because if this is a high school, if this is like a 17-year-old, yes, okay, Tinder and Grindr is an 18 plus app. I understand it. I get it. But if you think about the ways that these children are going to engage in this kind of content, is it going to be safely within the confines of a school library, where the information that's being given to these kids can be managed somehow, at least through this book that has been selected by the librarian or like the board or something? Because if they don't learn this information in a structured way, they're learning it in the hallways, they're learning it on the streets from their friends, they're learning, they're going to be learning about these topics that we see as inappropriate to them either way. So do you want to actually have a hand in some vetted information that you can share with those children in an age appropriate way, or are you just going to let them flounder and make their own mistakes that potentially could lead to more harm than if you just not taught them, but made that information available to them? You know? Like, the situations that I got myself into as a minor were a lot more inappropriate than it would have been if I was actually shown and taught those things before I went out to find them out for myself. It is inappropriate, it's not good, but that's the reality. And a lot of my peers, when we were minors, interacted with things in that same way. We were all learning from each other, and it was the blind leading the blind.
age to buy alcohol is 21. So why do your school libraries contain this adult content for minors? As a survivor of childhood kidnapping and sexual assault, by the way, I can promise you that the anonymity of hookup apps is a predator and sex trafficker's paradise. Minors do not have the life experience, sound judgment, or impulse control to safely navigate these apps.
That's true.
My ex-boyfriend, who was a bisexual man, used to complain to me often about how unsafe Grindr could be at times. If my adult ex-boyfriend felt unsafe on this app, then imagine how unsafe it is for a child.
I mean, that's true. Grindr is unsafe. I've been followed because of Grindr. Like, sure, it's not appropriate for kids, but how is this, like, this is one example of one book in one library. Is it this deep? Like, we only have a minute left. How much deeper can it get here? Okay, take the book out. And what? It doesn't mean all gay people are groomers. It just...
Libraries are putting children's safety at risk by allowing content that encourages children to engage in kink and use anonymous adult hookup apps.
I don't know if they're encouraging it. It's just in the book. I want to see what's on these signs in the background. I want to read those.
My LGBT community to deflect the reasonable concerns of parents. These parents...
It's like a performance art piece in the back with all the moving signs. Hilarious.
...are not homophobic or transphobic for just wanting to protect their children from this outrageously inappropriate and dangerous content.
Like I said before, though, you're either going to manage the content that they are going to engage in a safe way, or you're going... Like, it's like saying abstinence as sex education. It's just not... What's the word I'm searching for here? It's just not enough. It's just not enough. You can't just not teach these kids these things and not expect them to go out and try and ascertain this knowledge elsewhere. So you either have control over what they're learning, or their friends teach it to each other. And that's messy. That's even more unsafe, in my opinion.
Not dismiss and demonize these parents. These are their children. They just care about their children. These are not your children.
But if it's their children, they can just teach their children about what they think, right? Like, if it stands to reason that if I'm one of these parents and I've taught my children what I believe they should think and do, the presence of that information that just like Grindr and Tinder and exists, should that really, I fail to see the huge lifelong traumatic implications that would have to these children. Sure, it wouldn't necessarily align with what they had been taught, but life is about finding out things that don't line up with what you think, you know? Like, children shouldn't be on Grindr. Like, don't get it twisted. That's not what I'm saying. But I don't know if it's necessarily that bad that they know that these things exist, even from the safety aspect. Like, hey, these apps exist and they're not safe for you, and you shouldn't go on them until at least age 18. Is that harmful? I don't think that's harmful. I think that's less harmful than just letting them discover it in the app store and being like, ooh, what's this? I'm going to sign in and just see what happens, because that's dangerous. That's where the danger happens.
Schools and their libraries should be required to be a safe place for children. They should not contain this type of content.
It's kind of like the DARE program. I don't know. Did y'all ever do the DARE program? I don't remember what the acronym was, but it was like the drug program that I remember going through when I was a kid. And, well, not a kid, but like a teen, preteen maybe. But it was like the policemen that would come into the school gyms, and everybody would be in there, and they would have like drugs, and then they would have the drug dog. And I think they hid cocaine on a student. This isn't hyperbolic. This is literally what happened. They hid, one of the police officers hid cocaine on one of the students, a little baggie, allegedly. Cocaine, that's what they told us at the time in middle school. And then they brought the drug dog in, and they made a big scene about how the drug dog could smell the cocaine, and it was theater. It was Count Mama. It was really interesting. It probably wasn't cocaine. It was probably just like dog smelling treats or whatever. But like, this is kind of the same thing. Are you going to teach your kids about the unsafe things out there so they're actually informed when they approach those things in the world? Or are you just going to ignore that all of that exists, and then you just have a bunch of pregnant Christian teens because they had no idea what would happen? You know?
Off script here a little bit. I am a child sexual abuse survivor, and I can tell you right now, I'm still dealing with the consequences to this day.
And that's not to diminish that. That does sometimes take a lifetime, and sometimes it never goes away. So I can have empathy for this person, but my empathy is guided by my discernment, because your experience is not everybody else's.
Topics should not be mentioned in these books. It's extremely dangerous. Thank you.
No, it is not extremely dangerous. What is extremely dangerous is you ignoring all of these things. And like, it's not really a matter of yeah, these things have to be educated in an age appropriate way. So these children and these preteens and these coming of age adults know how to engage with the world around them. Education is power. I think sometimes with things like this too is that you can easily project your experience onto everybody else around, and it looks like that young woman had adverse experience with that, and I can completely understand that because I've been there too. But not everybody's experience is that, and you can't equate learning about Tinder and Grindr in a book in a school library to you being sexually abused. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. Okay, so the next video is called Gays Against Groomers Speaks Out Against Medically Transitioning Kids in Florida. Let's see what's happening here. Can't friggin' wait.
The modern trans movement is using the LGBT community as a shield to push their radical agenda of mutilation, sterilization, and indoctrination of minors.
The sterilization really, oh, is this like, okay. No, we're gonna, yeah, okay.
And as a gay man who represents the organization Gays Against Groomers, I'm here to make it loud and clear.
God, that's an embarrassing sentence right there, isn't it?
The LGBT community is sick of being used as a scapegoat for these destructive practices that are ruining kids' lives before they ever even had a fighting chance.
Where are they? Where are they? I haven't seen the people. I haven't read the stories about the kids who have been ruined before they have a fighting chance. I just don't think that's the reality. And if we look at there are studies of the amount of people that have regrets after transitioning, and people have more regrets after getting knee replacement surgery than they do for transitioning. And yeah, David Leatherwood, that is a really strong last name. Even hell, David is the same name as me. David Leatherwood. David Leatherwood. It's just fun to say. Leatherwood. That's good. It's a good last name.
For years, the LGBT community has fought valiantly for tolerance and acceptance in American society, and in the year 2023, we have achieved that.
We've heard this before, that they're like, everything was perfect, and then trans people just ruined everything by existing. I'm like, no. And also, things haven't been achieved. I still get slurs yelled at me on the street. We haven't achieved that. I don't know what achievement you think you've had, Mr. Leatherwood, but I just like saying that.
Now, all our progress is being erased because our community
That is so hyperbolic. Ain't no way that all of your progress is being thrown to the wayside because trans people exist. What a loony.
hijacked by trans terrorists.
No.
The LGBT community is being used like a Trojan horse.
What is all of this language? I cannot. No.
By extremists in a death cult to ruin the future generation of our country by destroying.
Are you listening to this? Oh my God. David should be an author because this is one of the next best-selling fictions. Sure, you knew what I meant.
Bodies, creating irreversible damage and lifelong medical patients before these kids ever reach puberty. And make no mistake, the radical trans movement has become a death cult.
What? A death cult? You gotta be shitting me, Mr. Leatherwood. Okay.
Their most recent mantra is death before detransition.
No. Oh my God. Death before detransition? That is not a thing. That is not a thing. If you were to so the detransitioning conversation is something really important here to have too as well, because I think so what this means is that, okay, if I was assigned male at birth and then I identified as a trans woman and then I decided to detransition, meaning I would go back into a male expression and realigning myself with what I was assigned at birth. The numbers of those instances are just a lot lower than this language makes it seem. And honestly, the people that would support you for authentically being trans would also support you for authentically being yourself if you were to detransition. Death before detransition is absolutely horrendous. And if anybody did actually believe that, I would condemn that behavior as well. But I have never in my entire life heard that phrase before. And what ends up happening here by a lot of these like alt-right people, these QAnon people, because it would be I am of it's just the language so I don't get sued here, is the I am of the belief that this man is probably like anti-vax and pro-Trump as well, because all of those ideologies usually fit together. But anyway, what a lot of these people do is they platform people like Ollie London. I don't know if you know this individual. So Ollie London came out as trans, but then detransitioned is now like the face of the detransitioning community, which is just not a huge community. at all. And yeah, so then now these alt-right people are really hanging on to this idea that all these people are detransitioning and being trans is just a phase. Like, can't you hear the parallels of like the queer movement or like the gay movement? Because they wouldn't say queer, because queer kind of encapsulates everybody in my mind anyway.
They're possessed by a sick obsession with bodily mutilation, self-harm, identity destruction, and pure hatred for anyone who dares to question this dangerous ideology.
No, it's just simply not true. It's just simply not true.
America is a free society, and as a patriot,
Okay, but if it's a free society, why can't you be free to do whatever the hell you want with your own body? It's just really that simple. And the idea that these children are harming themselves and doing irreversible damage is also not the truth either. The majority of kids who are trans are not having puberty blockers or taking hormones or having surgery before the age of 18. The instances of that happening is just so very low. Like, you might be on hormones around the age of like 16 or 15 or 14 even, maybe in some cases, but nobody out here is having these surgeries as a minor. It is very, very rare for these surgeries to be taking place on minors. It's just not the case. So there is no irreversible damage from just going by there's no irreversible damage done by being assigned male at birth and using she, her pronouns while in school. That's not medically transitioning.
For the freedom of all individuals to make their own decisions about their own lives.
He's so close to self-awareness. Why can't everybody make the choices about their own lives?
Where we draw the line is children, minors who cannot consent. Yet
gender is not a sexual act. Like, he's comparing that children cannot consent to a sexual act, which is true, but children can consent to their gender identity. Kids know. I'm sorry, they have a better sense of who they are than anybody else on the outside. They just do. Everybody.
It's exactly the demographic that these terrorists are targeting with their culture war.
All of this language is just very gross. I hate
your
it.
kids. They say if you don't bend the knee and submit to their demands of gender-affirming care, which is the nice way of saying mutilation and sterilization.
No, gender-affirming care. Everybody accesses gender-affirming care. Everybody does. Every single person on the planet accesses gender-affirming care. Viagra is gender-affirming care. Like, hair if a man goes bald and then you get like a wig or you get hair transplants or whatever the hell that's called, that's gender affirming care. Like, hair removal on like your legs and your arms, it's gender affirming care. This is all hair related, but there's a lot of gender affirming care, like being on testosterone if your T levels are low as an assigned male at birth person. Like, there are so many things that are gender affirming care that are under the radar if you're not a trans person, but cis people access gender affirming care at very similar rates as trans people do. They just don't see it as the same thing because it's affirming the gender of which they were assigned at birth, but it's still gender affirming care.
You are a bigot or a transphobe, and now LGBT acceptance in America is down for the first time in years.
Because of you, Mr. Leatherwood.
It's because people know that something is wrong and they're not on board with what's happening. It only takes a caring parent with a little common sense and gut instincts to know that permanently mutilating their child's body is much worse than being labeled anti-LGBT.
But like, just the way that he's talking is he's making it sound like there's a bunch of like LGBTQ like folks outside of a school like ready with ambulances like to take these kids to mutilate their bodies. It's just not the reality. It's not the reality. That's not what's happening. He's building this narrative with all this like grandeur language of like bending your knee and submitting and terrorism and culture war and patriot is what he said.
Many now wear that label proudly. They say, if being against the medicalization of minors means I'm anti-LGBT, then fine, call me anti-LGBT, because good parents care more about the lives and safety of their children than catering to these rainbow terrorists.
Stop saying terrorists. And yes, you should be taking your child's interest first. You should be taking your child's best interest into consideration before anything else. I do believe that to be true as well. But I think maybe something like, okay, Mr. David Leatherwood, I wonder if David knows any trans people in real life, because it's really hard to say these things if you have an example of a trans person in your life, especially if you know a trans kid in your life. I've known trans kids before. Hell, I was one, right? So like, if you don't have somebody in your life who you love who falls into one of these categories, it's really easy to make this sweeping generalization that transness is being pushed upon you as if it's some outside in force, when it is in fact not. It's an inside out force. And parents who do not allow these inside out forces to come out really are doing their kids a disservice.
I'm here to tell you now, standing up against these bullies and wanting to protect your children is not
No, you, Mr. Leatherwood, are the bully. You are the bully.
LGBT. In fact, the majority of LGBT individuals are against it too. Like me and like our entire organization.
Like me, Mr. David Leatherwood is against that. No, you can't say that most. You can't say that most. I was out there for the protests. I saw all those people out there at the protests. It is not most. You are the loud minority here, Mr. Leatherwood. David Leatherwood, Mr. Leatherwood, Red Leatherwood, you get it, yeah.
Groomers. And we are fighting for visibility to reclaim our community from the trans extremists, to stand up against this evil and destructive ideology, to stand in solidarity with parents, and to give...
I always wonder if these people have kids. You think Mr. Leatherwood has kids? My best guess would be no.
Voice to everyone who knows on a gut level that this is not right, but is too afraid to speak out in fear of being smeared or labeled.
Oh, Candace Owens Lane. Somebody's been listening to Candace Owens. I don't know, episode 1 and 2. Smear me out of existence. Go watch that video. Anyway, smear campaign. Love it. Love that language.
It is not bigoted to want to protect children from elective experimental medicalization.
It is not elective or experimental.
It is common sense, it is compassionate, and it is scientific.
No, I don't think it's any of the above there.
Left in collusion with gay media.
Collusion with gay media. Stop. Like, do you even know what these words mean, David? Or are you just saying them? Oh my God.
Advocacy groups like GLAAD and HRC
I don't know
are
them.
promoting a narrative that the LGBT community supports the medicalization of children, but that is a lie.
What does the medicalization of children even mean? I struggle to understand what that means at a base level. What?
LGBT community at large does not support this. It's only fringe radicals. This lie is funded
Then
by...
I suppose I'm a radical. Hi, my name is David, and apparently I am a radical.
Donor dollars
brought to you by
Big Pharma.
Oh.
That's right. These organizations are sponsored by...
I thought he was going to say like Big Trans. Or what was the other one? Something Inc. I forget, it was in the last episode. It was really good. Should be writing these down.
Like Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah, here's the anti-vax shit coming out. Sorry, I am pausing so much here.
Health Group and other medical corporations who have a vested interest in turning your kids into lifelong medical patients because they don't see an innocent child with a bright future. They see dollar signs.
No. And that especially can't be the case. Like, I live in Canada. That especially can't be the case here because you're not paying for most of this kind of healthcare, especially when you're a minor. You're not paying for this. So it's not I suppose they would still make money from the publicly funded healthcare, but that's not. Do you know how much money Big Pharma makes from the medicalization of just people in general? It's not through transness. How about you look at the way that we're feeding the people in our country and the kind of food that's readily available that's keeping us sick? Well, we talk about cigarettes. How about we talk about alcohol, supporting the medicalization of Big Pharma and all of that nonsense? It is not trans kids that's pulling in all the money. What the hell?
It's funny. They call a group like Gays Against Groomers an anti-LGBT hate group.
Because it is... What was that, an E? I think it was an E.
But the ideology of gender-affirming care is actually very homophobic.
The ideology of gender-affirming care is very homophobic. Is that unpackable, or is that just nonsense? The ideology of gender-affirming care is homophobic. I don't know what that means. I don't think Mr. Leatherwood's going to explain it because I don't think he knows what the hell that means.
The truth is, the majority of gender non-conforming kids grow up to be gay.
The truth is, the majority of gender non-conforming kids grow up to be gay. Okay, I don't know if I necessarily disagree with that. So in effect, they are racing gays telling them...
They are erasing gays.
They are Sorry, I'm just trying to follow this logic. Okay, so if I am a gender diverse person... Okay, so if I was born male Okay, I think I understand his argument. I don't agree with it. But if I was assigned male at birth and I was gay and then I transitioned to be a woman, then I would still be attracted to men. So then by his standards, I would be straight. So I would be erasing gays because I am trans. But who benefits by erasing gays? Is it Big Pharma? Is that the argument?
Masculine girl, she's trans and needs to start puberty blockers, deprives that girl of the right to explore her identity. What if she's a lesbian? What if she's just a tomboy?
I feel like a tomboy is pretty synonymous with the trans girl. Like, I'm playing into what he's saying, but I don't know. I don't know, but I think the problem is that you can't make those sweeping generalizations about tomboys or tomgirls or whatever the hell in general. It's just, it's so specific. It's so case by case, right? There's no one thing that you could say that would be conclusive for everybody with a gender diverse experience.
And telling a feminine boy he's meant to transition to female simply because he prefers playing with Barbies over trucks is outright sexist.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I don't think you need to transition just because you're a feminine boy. I don't think you need to transition just because you're a masculine girl. I would agree with that. But again, it's making it sound like people are forcing kids to transition when in fact that's typically not the case. Have people been like coerced into transitioning? I'm sure it's happened. I don't have any personal experience. I haven't heard any specific stories about that. That doesn't mean that they don't exist, but that's not the overall trans community. And you can't be grouping in those people. You can't be painting the entire community of trans people with that singular brush, even if we don't have an example. Like, where are the people that have had that experience? Show them to us. Let them hear their stories, and then it will be more real. I don't think Mr. Leatherwood has a wrongfully transitioned kid in his pocket.
A gag, we see ourselves in these kids. Stop transing gay youth. Stop gay erasure. Save the tomboys. Stop the sexism. Stop using the LGBT community as a scapegoat for hurting children. This is a non-partisan issue. Protect our kids. We are Gays Against Groomers, and we stand firmly against the elective medicalization of minors.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Okay. Yeah, I don't really have any comments here at the end because I stopped every 8 seconds, so you know how I feel here. Oh man, so that's where we're gonna end it here for this episode of Dismantling Hate. Here with me, your host David Day on my YouTube channel. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you thought of this episode. If you enjoyed it, please see all of my other ones in this playlist. It's probably going to be very bingeable at this point. And yeah, follow me on Instagram and TikTok if you want to hang out with me anymore. I have a podcast on Spotify and on YouTube. I am a DJ and I have my tracks there on Spotify as well. I'm doing all this other stuff here. So besties, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. What is this, 4, 5? I don't know, girl. And until next time, goodbye.